Hey, it's Rich Eisen. I've done it all, from breaking the news of Mark McGuire's retirement to working with Scott Miller and his mustache on WJBC.
FM 102.1 and AM 1230 WJBC. This is the Scott Miller Show. Well, look who decided to join me in studio. I'd like to welcome back to the show Congressman Darin LaHood. What brings you to town, sir?
Hey, Scott, great to be with you. Great to be in studio. I feel a little uncomfortable being this close to your mustache, but it's great to be here in person with you. I'm usually in D.C., but back this week, traveling around my district in Bloomington Normal today, going over to meet with our new mayor, Dan Brady, talk about some infrastructure projects and things we can be doing to help here in Bloomington Normal. Also visiting the West Side Community Center to talk about some of the work they're doing to help our youth.
All right. Well, let's get into this one big, beautiful bill. You voted for it. It's passed. You have said we need to cut government waste. I want to get some clarity. The Trump administration said that they will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits. President Trump himself said it over and over and over again. But the one big, beautiful bill will reduce Medicaid spending by about $800 billion over the next decade. So isn't that a cut to Medicaid?
There are Medicaid cuts in this bill. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. But taking 1.5 million illegal immigrants off Medicaid, that's going to save money on Medicaid. We're taking 1.5 million illegal immigrants off Medicaid. So whether you want to call that a cut or taking money back that shouldn't be spent on illegal immigrants, that's number one. Number two, if you're a young mother on Medicaid with children and dependents, your Medicaid does not get cut. If you have a child with developmental disabilities, your Medicaid does not get cut. If you are a senior citizen on a fixed income, your Medicaid does not get cut. The social safety net of Medicaid remains in place. Now, if you're an able-bodied adult in your 20s, 30s, and 40s with no dependents, we're going to transition you off Medicaid into a job. We have 7 million unfilled jobs in the country right now. We want people to get a job. So whether you want to call that a cut on Medicaid or moving people off Medicaid into a job, that's what we're doing. 4.8 million able-bodied adults in this country, we're going to make them go through work requirements, try to get a job to do that. So whether that's a cut or scaling back of Medicaid, it depends on how you look at it.
Do you think there's going to be any everyday Americans that are on Medicaid that are going to fall through the cracks? And if so, who do they contact? Or what's the path for them? Because nothing's going to be perfect.
You're right about that. But again, I go back to the social safety net that is in place for Medicaid to help the most vulnerable people, people that can't help themselves, people that have disabilities. Their Medicaid does not change. It remains in place. But again, those others, that will change on that. So I'm not worried about them falling through the cracks. But I am concerned about being $37 trillion in debt and figuring out we can't keep spending money that we don't have. And so scaling back and making Medicaid more efficient, more effective, more accountable is my obligation to taxpayers.
There have been some very public protests at your office in Normal and at other your offices. You have said, hey, I'm not holding a town hall. I will meet with anybody that wants to meet one-on-one. I'm not here for a dog and pony show. So I'm wondering if you can be critical at all of the one big, beautiful bill. Is there anything in the bill that you don't like? Is there anything that you go, I'll vote for it because there are more things in it that I like than that I don't like? Can you be critical of it at all?
Sure. Listen, we cut $1.5 trillion over 10 years. Probably not enough to bring down our debt. So more cuts, I think, to help bring down our debt and deficit could have been a part of this. On the energy tax credits, the EV tax credit that affects Rivian here in Bloomington Normal, we scaled that back, not as far as some people wanted to go on that. But again, I think keeping that in place so that Rivian can get to scale when it comes to the vehicles and the vans they're producing here, I would have liked to have seen more flexibility on that there.
All right, let's talk tariffs. The president put tariffs in place. The stock market reacted negatively. The president then put an extension on the tariff deadline to July 9th. Now the tariff deadline has been extended to August 1st. The president has said no more extensions. What's going on?
On tariffs, I've been public on this. Tariffs are taxes. They're taxes on my farmers, my constituents, my manufacturers. Tariffs don't pay for themselves. Now, should tariffs be used in a strategic and tactical way to go after bad actors like China that cheat and steal and play by a different set of rules and standards? Absolutely. But what I have concerns about are tariffs on our allies like Canada and Mexico, who we have a robust trade agreement with right now, our European allies. Now, I know President Trump wants to bring more manufacturing back here, bring more jobs back here. I'm all for doing that. But I worry about the collateral damage that's done to our farmers. You look at the commodity prices, they're way down because China's not buying our corn and soybeans. Other countries aren't because of these tariffs. And I always say this, my farmers are the most patriotic people that I know, but it's how much pain they can take when it comes to tariffs. And I'm all for fixing the economy, but if you don't have markets and customers to sell to because of tariffs, that's not a good thing for our economy in Central Illinois. So I'm willing to give the president the benefit of the doubt to work out these deals, but let's get it done sooner rather than later. Is this a means to an end? I'm all in. If this is the end, count me out on it.
Okay, who do you tell that to?
I talked to the U.S. Trade Ambassador, Jamison Greer. He's the person in charge of negotiating this. So I have a conversation with him on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. So I've expressed to him my concerns with my district. And what I've told Ambassador Greer is sooner rather than later, we need to have resolution. Now, they already have an agreement that they reached with the U.K., but we need more agreements. We need an agreement with Japan, South Korea, our allies, Mexico, Canada. The sooner we can get these agreements done. Now, trade negotiations are time intensive, they're complicated, they're nuanced. But I've told the ambassador, I've also told the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who's involved in a lot of these trade negotiations. We need to get these trade agreements with our allies done sooner rather than later to help calm the economy moving forward. And so that's my hope over the next month to 6 weeks here.
We're joined by Congressman Darin LaHood. You have been very, very, very vocal on this show about TikTok and the potential dangers that it has due to its owners in China. The Biden administration said sell it or shut it down. President Trump brought it back as one of his first moves as president. You were not a fan of this choice. You said, let's see what happens after his 90-day extension. Well, we've now had 3 90-day extensions. What's the latest? How are you feeling on this?
Well, my view hasn't changed. I think TikTok either has to go dark or be sold. Now, there's apparently some news that there will be an owner that buys that. Let's get that done sooner rather than later. Going back to why we passed this law in Congress, which was bipartisan. Remember, Scott, I serve on the House Intelligence Committee. I also serve on our Select Committee on China. Been very involved with this issue. There is a direct correlation and link between the Communist Chinese Party and ByteDance, which is the owner of TikTok. So they are constantly stealing our personal privacy data. Also, if you look at the algorithms, you're never going to see anything that criticizes Xi Jinping or the Communist Chinese Party. So they're using this to manipulate data in many different ways. Remember, about 40 to 50% of Americans now get their news from TikTok. Really scary stuff. So we need to have a complete divestiture, ByteDance, which is tied to the CCP, with TikTok. I'm anxious to see that. I've been critical that this hasn't been done already. My understanding is we're going to have a resolution within the next 30 days here. I want to see that sooner rather than later. We need to have a complete divestment. And remember, the law that we passed in the Congress last year was supported by Marco Rubio, then a senator, supported by J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio at the time, and many others in the administration now that supported this. Let's get that done so that we can protect the privacy and protect American security.
Congressman, I know you've got a tight schedule here in town. I'm going to let you go. Thank you for coming in studio. I appreciate you taking time.
Thanks, Scott.
It's FM 102.1 and AM 1230 WJBC. Good morning.